market. Okay, the labor market exists in every country. Okay, that's how we analyze it, or in each area. Okay. Well, first, labor, as we call it, is the same as work. Okay. Work. They're synonyms. All right. So before we read, or what you were trying to do, is to find out some meanings, okay? Meaning of words that you need to understand, okay? Before we do the reading, okay? It says first, match the words with the definitions, okay? First, let's read all the words. We have take on, obey, utility, output, compromise, productivity, afford, and staff, okay? So we're going to find out the real definitions for these words so we can understand the labor market better. Okay? The first one is to take on. Okay? So what is to take on? Anybody?
Employee, more staff.
Employee, more staff. Employee with double E. No, only employ, because that is the verb. Okay? So employ more staff. Okay? To employ is a synonym to hire or to get more workers into a company. Okay? The second one is to obey. What is to obey? To follow. Okay? So we're talking about what are the two parts in the market. Imagine you go to the market, so there is a person offering things, selling things, and the other person is the buyer, the person who buys the products or the services. Okay, so there are consumers and there are producers, right? So they both give different things to each other. Okay? So we said, imagine in a market, there's a person selling fish, okay? And there's a person selling the fish. Here, who is selling the fish? The producer. And the consumer is the person buying. That's right. Okay? So in the labor market, there are two parts as well, a producer and a consumer. Okay? One is the employer and the other is the worker. So which is a worker and which is the employer?
Employer, producers, and work consumers.
Well, not exactly. Okay? Here the consumers, okay, are the employers. That means the companies, the businesses. Okay? These are the consumers. Fishes. What do you expect from what you bought?
How many fish?
Well, you know that it's 100 pesos by kilogram. Okay? So you buy I don't know, 2 fishes, and that's 150 pesos, let's say. Okay? But what do you expect on your product, on what you bought?
Quantity.
Exactly. Okay? So when someone buys something, the consumer buys, okay, buys, let's say, quality, or you want, gets the utility, okay? The maximum utility or satisfaction for their money, no? So they want their workers, like you said, quality. You want the fish to be fresh, to be clean, okay, to be tasty, maybe. So when you buy something, when a consumer buys something, you expect the maximum utility or satisfaction for what you're buying. Okay? So when people buy labor, what is the maximum utility or satisfaction they can get? Productivity. Okay? So let's say that this is productivity. So you want the worker to do the things that they pay for, right? Or to do their work well. That is the utility or satisfaction that that the employer is looking for when he's buying labor. Okay? So when employers buy labor, they are getting an increased output. Okay? So let's say the consumer gets the utility or satisfaction, okay, that is, let's say, in products or services, depending on the company, it can be output. But the output, okay, this is what we need to know, is how much of the product or service is produced by the company. Okay, so this is how much of the product or service the company produces. Okay, so when a company supply and demand. Okay, so are you familiar with this term? Yes, more or less.
More or less.
Okay, the laws of supply and demand. Any ideas? Can you tell me an example of how that works?
It's like a avocado.
Like avocado, yes? So, can you tell me?
I don't know how to tell, but the price of avocado is more expensive. It's like a supply,
Okay,
and the people have a demand.
okay. So, right now with the avocado in the supermarket or in the markets, there's a lot of demand. The demand is the same because people eat the same amount of avocado. Okay, maybe you buy 2 avocados, one every time you go to the supermarket. But the problem here is with the supply. So what could be the case of the avocado? There isn't enough supply. Okay, maybe trees are not giving fruit, or maybe the weather changed in where they planted the avocados, and so we have less avocados, and the demand is the same. So what do the supermarkets do? Raise the price, okay, or increase the price. Okay, so that is an example of how the laws of supply and demand work. Okay, so there is a law of supply and demand applied also to the labor. Okay, so let me explain this. The relationship between the price and the demand. Okay, first, price and demand. As we said with the avocado, okay, the price is higher, okay, because there is a lower supply, okay, or the demand is the same, but we don't have the same number of avocados. So here, when the price of labor, let's make a graph. Okay, so we're going to see on this side of the graph the pay per hour. Let's say that here per hour you earn 200 pesos, 100 pesos. Okay, and here 0. Okay, so the other line, we're going to have the number of workers employed. So, just looking at this, this information, how do you think it works? Number of workers employed. Let's say here you have 10 people, here you have 100, here you have 1,000, and then you have 100,000. Okay. So, how do you think this works? People that get 200 pesos per hour are a lot of people
No.
or less people?
Less people.
Okay, so exactly, it goes like this. Okay, most of the people earns less by the hour. Okay, and as they pay more, less people get this kind of jobs. Okay, that's the labor. Okay, what happens there? More people buy avocados. Okay, the product or service
Is the same.
will increase. Okay, the supply increases. Okay, so the cure shifts to the right. Okay, with another color. Okay, this is only if there is an increase in demand of the product or service, when more people want that service. Okay, that way the cure moves to the right. So when more people want, the compromise point is higher. When more people want the product or service. But when another consideration is technology, when there is a machine, a robot that does the work of people, what do you think happens?
Yes.
It moves to the left. Okay? So people start getting less salary as well. Okay? Alright, so that's a little explanation on what is the labor market, what are the agents of the labor market, and what is the compromise between supply and demand.